Welcome to the Positively You podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Larson, and I'm passionate about helping you shift the way you think so you can create a life you're absolutely obsessed with. Each week, I'll be bringing you a guest or a thought that's going to help you feel more optimistic and equipped to take real action. Get ready to push past limiting beliefs, ditch that negativity, and start showing up as the best and most positive version of you. Girl, let's do this. Hey, and welcome back to the Positively You podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Larson, and as always, I'm so grateful you've tuned in today. Whether this is your very first time listening, if it is, welcome to the party. Or if you are a long-time listener, I'm so grateful to have you here. So today's episode is going to be quick but powerful. It is a little shot of inspiration to help you think about your life in a whole new way. Today, we're going to be revisiting an idea that has kind of been on my mind again lately, and one that I originally shared a couple of years ago on the podcast. And when I had this episode pop back up and I had to go searching for it, I was shocked at how, number one, how long ago I originally recorded this and put it out. It was like the very, very beginning of 2021. And number two, just how long I've been doing this podcast. It originally launched in September of 2020, and we're now in September of 2024, and just kind of scrolling back through and looking at all the episodes that have come out, all the guest interviews that I've had, all of the just amazingness that has come from this. So a fun little revisit to the past that I had. But it was an idea I shared years and years ago, and it came back up last week in a coaching session, actually. And it's the idea of balance. So we're going to be talking today about balance, or rather, why I've come to believe that balance is overrated and what we could be striving for instead to replace that balance. So this concept, like I said, it recently came up in a coaching call, and we were talking about core values. We were talking about the things that our life is full of and where we're doing well and where we're dropping the ball and if that's a bad thing or not. Anyway, it was a whole thing with the whole coaching session. But my client had an aha moment. And when she brought it up, I was like, we have to dive back into this today. And that aha moment is the idea of ditching balance for harmony. So before I get there, let's talk about balance really quick. The idea of balance is one we hear often, right? And we hear it like we need to be balanced. We need to balance in all things. But that really means if you look at it as like a visual, how I like to look at things, and it's why I always use metaphors and I always use analogies on this podcast, is you think of a scale, you think of something that's balanced, and it means it's equal. It means that it's all leveled. Everything is equaling out. We're giving the same attention, the same equal attention to all the different areas of our lives, our work, our family, our friends, our self-care, our hobbies. And that can feel impossible because it kind of is. It kind of is impossible to give the exact same amount of energy and time and attention to every single different area of our life. And that's just not how life works. Some seasons demand more from one area and less than another. And that is why the idea of balance can feel so frustrating, not just to me, but probably to you and probably to most anyone that you would talk to, because it suggests that if one area of your life requires more attention, then we're by default failing at all of the rest of the areas, which is why I really love the idea of harmony. So if you've ever listened to a beautiful piece of music, and now this could be, the greatest symphony, orchestra, beautiful classic piece of music, or this honestly could be like your favorite pop song in the car or whatever, any piece of music really, you will notice that not all the instruments and the singing and all of everything involved in this piece of music, not all of them are playing at the same level at the same time. Sometimes the strings will take the lead. Other times the percussion comes in really strong, or there's like a soft woodwind in the background, right? They're not all competing for attention. They're not all taking the lead. They're not all playing at the loudest volume, because honestly, if they were, that would be chaotic. They would be balanced. They would all be balanced, and they would all be equal, and they would all be demanding the same attention from us as the audience, right? If we're sticking to this analogy. And it would be pure chaos, and we'd leave with a headache and feeling nauseous and definitely not wanting to do that again. And I feel like that's what balance does to us, which is why harmony is so awesome. When we can get these pieces, they all still get to be there. They all are still a part of that end piece, that end result, that musical ensemble, right? They all still get to be there. And I've realized that our life is so much more like that. Our life is like an orchestra. There, I'll narrow it down to a specific piece of music, okay? An orchestra. Every part of our life, our family, our careers, our self-care, our relationships, and that means all of our different relationships, right? Our marriages, our friendships, our relationships with each of our kids, our relationships with our parents and siblings. Oh, there's so many things that they all have their own role to play. And some days one will take the lead and it might play louder, more prominently, while some of the others stay in the background. And that doesn't mean that those quieter parts aren't important. They're still there supporting the harmony. And that honestly is the beautiful part of this analogy, is that each part has its moment and each part has its purpose. When everything is working together, it creates something so much more meaningful than if we are trying to keep everything perfectly balanced all the time. So when striving for harmony, it's all about flow and adjusting to the rhythms of your life. Think about the moments when you are deeply focused on a project. Maybe work or something in your career is taking the lead at this time, and other parts of your life, like friendship or socializing, are kind of taking a step back because you're working really, really hard on this project. Now, that doesn't mean that you're failing in your friendships, right? It just means that for right now, something else is playing a bigger role in your life. Okay. If you have a lot of things going on in family, if it's a heavy, heavy sports season right now, that's where I'm kind of at. That might mean that your home is taking a back seat, or how you're showing up in your kitchen is taking, I'm maybe not making the most gourmet and labor intensive meals right now for my family, but I'm still getting dinner on the table for them, right? It's just kind of taking a more supportive role instead of a lead role in my life right now. And honestly, I know for me that this is such a freeing shift in perspective, and honestly in how I'm judging or not judging myself, because we all do it. Striving for harmony and living in harmony allows us to kind of move with the more natural rhythms of our life, because our lives really do move in these rhythms. When you kind of step back and you kind of look at it and you take on this perspective, you can see it. You can begin to see it. And this really allows us to be able to give energy where it's needed without feeling like we're neglecting everything else, and without feeling like we need to feel guilty for letting a ball drop, or need to shame ourselves for not being able to have it all balanced, because like we have established, balance is kind of impossible. So like I said, this is just a quick episode today, but I really want to hammer home this idea of this music and this harmony in your life. And to just hammer it home, here's, the picture, just like in an orchestra, where each instrument has its moment to shine. Our lives have different seasons where priorities shift. And seasons, when I'm using this phrase seasons, it can be quite literal, like literal seasons, the 4 seasons of the year. And it can even be week by week, day by day. You might have a week where you look at your calendar and it's like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. It is full. It's a lot of work, or it's a lot of family, or whatever. And then the next season, quote unquote, could be the next week. So seasons can have many different timelines there. And instead of feeling guilty when one area requires more of your energy, just allow it. Allow it to take center stage and know that the rest of it will fall into place when the time is right. Okay, so think about this today. Think about your own life as an orchestra, and think about what instruments. I'm really going to hammer home this analogy for you, but really think about what instruments are kind of playing the lead for you right now, and which ones are providing support. And do you feel like they're working together? Or do you feel like you're kind of trying to force everything to play at the same volume? The key is to let the different parts of your life work in harmony with each other and not against each other. So as you're thinking about this, and as you're getting off of this podcast episode, you might be thinking like, okay, that's great. Sounds lovely. Obviously, harmony and going with the flow sounds great, but like, how do I actually put this into practice? It starts with checking in. Like I just said, it starts with checking in and having some self-awareness. It also starts with knowing what is really important to you right now, which is something that I am so passionate about going over when I do private coaching with my clients. We go over what is important. We go over our priorities. We nail down what our core values are. And we get really, really clear on what it is right now. Not in some ideal, perfect version of your life, but right now, in this moment, in this season, what deserves the loudest? What deserves center stage right now? And where can I quiet some other things down? Now, also because I don't love all overhauls and taking big, giant steps, think about how you can take a small step, even today, even tomorrow, to creating that harmony. Maybe that looks like saying no to something, letting go of a commitment that doesn't align with your priorities. Maybe that looks like delegating a task that is draining your energy. Maybe it's simply okay with not giving everything equal attention. Maybe that's your baby step, is just realizing it. You don't even have to do anything except come to the realization of, I can't do it all. And this is biggest priority right now. And that's the only thing, that's the step you have to take, is just owning it. Again, I'll leave you with this right now. Just because something is taking center stage right now doesn't mean that everything else in your life is any less important. It's all part of our full life. It's all part of a bigger picture. So I hope this little hit of inspiration today helps you. This analogy of harmony versus balance resonates with you. If it does, or if you have some additional insight or want to challenge it at all, I want to hear from you. So let's keep the conversation going. You know, I love to chat over in the DMs on Instagram. You can find me at positively.jessie over there. And just know, you know this if you listen to this show, that life is not about doing everything perfectly. It's about netting positive, right? So we get to have ups and downs and all of this, and we take what we learn from our experiences and we get curious about how we're feeling. And when we do those things, we end up with a net positive. So I encourage you to just take a moment today after you listen to this, reflect on your life, take a look at it, get a bird's eye view, and see if there is a way that you can create more harmony in your life and kind of ditch that grasp or that chokehold on trying to achieve balance. So with that, I am going to head out and see you next week. Thank you for hanging out with me again today. I'm so glad you pressed play. If you want to take a quick second to share this episode with someone you think would love it too, that would be amazing. If you're loving the show, make sure you go and leave a review on iTunes. Reviews are like magic for podcasts, and your review will help get this show into the ears of more amazing women just like you. And come find me over on Instagram. I'm there at positively.jessie, and I cannot wait to hang out with you some more. So until next time,
Have an amazing week.